Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for Ring of Honor Absolute Marathon of an episode today, but some fun stuff that happened inside of it, including an amazing main event that I was so excited about. Guys, we thank you so much for being here. Things are a little different tonight because of what happened with the length of this ROH episode. Your Impact post-show is going to be on Fightful Overbooked while we are here on the main channel because we're the main event. We've got a special guest in-house. Reg is at the pay-per-view. He saw this was 19 matches long, and he was like, I'm big-timing them. Forget about it. I'm out. But thankfully, we are joined by the wonderful Kyle Sparks. Kyle, how are you today?
Doing great. Happy to be here. I'm trying real hard to not say that I'm honored to be here, but we're gonna.
Honor's real. Here, I'll shake your hand right now. Shake your hand.
I failed.
There it is. Oh, there you go. See? You can be honored to be here because honor is real. We are going to talk some ROH, but guys, don't be a dickhead. Get in your super chats and your humpa chats, darling. We're going to talk some Zack Sabre Jr. and Samoa Joe. We're going to talk Diamante finally getting what looks like a real shot under the AEW ROH umbrella. So much of that and more. What a card we have for you. But before we do that, we're going to ask you to leave a thumbs up on this video as well. It's the best free way that you can help us. We'll also remind you to subscribe to Fightful Select at FightfulSelect.com. There was some late news that broke, like 6:30, 7 o'clock yesterday about Aussie Open and them having interest in, or drawing interest from AEW and WWE. And what do you know? An hour later, we find out that they are signed to AEW. We saw Kyle Fletcher in action tonight. What a blast, but so much breaking news. We've got such a loaded weekend. So also just to give, we got some questions about some things. So just so you guys know, tomorrow we will have the AEW and Rampage SmackDown review as usual. Saturday, we'll have your Night of Champions review here on the main channel, but Alex and I will be doing our Sands of Blind review on Fightful Select. Alex has moral objections to watching the Saudi Arabia shows. So what we do is I watch them and then I describe the shows to him and I hide 3 lies and he has to guess them. It's a very silly and very fun thing that we do. We have a blast behind the paywall. And then Sunday, NXT and AEW are going head to head. Alex and I will be on the main channel for NXT doing our Sour Graps review. It'll be a Beat the Clock review. We've done it before, where it'll be about a half hour long, probably as a watch along to Anarchy at the Arena or whatever else is going on. But you will also have your Double or Nothing review on the main channel, as well as Alex and I on Fightful Select also doing the Double or Nothing post show. So that is a loaded weekend for you. Grapsty will also be going on, I'm sure. So we got a lot happening tonight, and we got a lot happening all weekend. But we do kick it off with something that I was so excited to see because I am a big JD Drake proponent. Like, I love this guy. He feels like he walked out of a different era. I was getting like Vader vibes tonight with some of his sentons. I thought this match was so fun to kick us off. We had him and Mark Briscoe, who of course is your special guest referee, coming up this weekend. This is part of my complaints with ROH and AEW is delineation of stories and rosters, but I thought commentary did a really nice job marrying everything here. We do get Mark Briscoe defeating JD Drake with the Froggy Bow. Some fun spots I'll call out in this. There was like Drake and Briscoe were just exchanging chops, and then finally Drake went with a knee, and Briscoe responded with a boot. But I love in those sequences where people are exchanging forearms or chops when someone is like, I'm just going to do something different. Pops me tremendous me. We get those sentons from JD Drake in here, as I alluded to. Also a really fun spot where Mark Briscoe was looking for the J Driller, and Henry jumped onto the apron and taken out, which was very, very well done. And then after the match, we get Mark Briscoe and all of his charm saying that he's been whooping these big burly boys and he wants Samoa Joe for that ROH TV title next. Fun way to kick off the night here. What did you think, Kyle?
Yeah, no, it was great stuff. Mark has just such a great connection with the crowd. He always did, doubly so since Jay's, tragic and untimely passing. this was just some fantastic stuff. Mark being real heavy-handed, big strikes in a way that you didn't always see him do. Jay was always more of the striker, and Mark was always a little bit more of the flashier guy. So it feels like he's kind of melded both of their styles now that he's forced to go singles, and that's been very interesting to see. I had some fun moments here in commentary, and I'll come back to this a lot. It feels like as each week goes by, like I wanted Nigel to be in a 3-man booth with Ian and Caprice. I thought that was fantastic. When I heard it was happening, I was thrilled. I felt like the first couple weeks they struggled a little bit to sort of find their chemistry and find where everything fits together. And you're seeing that meld more and more with each passing week, and it's great. Nigel not knowing about the rules of American football was fantastic. JD kicks the field goal, and Nigel asks, "How many points is that?"
So good. Commentary this is my favorite commentary team. I've sung the praises of Caprice and Ian for a while, even in the pre-shutdown version of ROH. Like what they did on commentary during COVID, I thought was so impressive because it really captivated you. And it's a challenging thing on commentary because especially when there's things like pure rule matches, like they had to do a lot of work, and I thought they kind of saved their ROH's freaking bacon tonight because 3 hours of commentary that was this high caliber made this pacing a lot better. But to your point, Nigel joining in here has been so much fun. He is such a beautiful marriage of like personality and also the wrestler experience. I feel like sometimes you get one feels very over the top and presented, or one feels very dry, and he's just so good at being that storyteller with the in-ring story and acumen to back it up. But I'm with you, like commentary, major help tonight. Major help tonight. I
will say that the smaller venue, I did make a note about this. The smaller venue here at Universal Studios is that I saw it here during this match when they were interacting with the crowd and they're acting with each other. You could hear them talking trash to each other in the ring. That's something that I appreciate. It reminds me of the classic Ring of Honor when they ran smaller venues. You could hear some of that, and that interaction was such an integral part of the feel of that original Ring of Honor. And the only problem there is that the audiences haven't quite matched like the Chicago or the New York crowds that they had back in the day. And the longer a taping goes,
there for like 17 hours, I think is part of the problem. But I agree with you that the smaller set and the studio setting is so much better than what we were getting on the road. I don't mean to be controversial, and this isn't a super chat, so I'm not technically supposed to bring it up, but the phenomenal Joe Hulbert has this hot take, and I do want your thoughts. Because he thinks that Samoa Joe is a good wrestler, which I have to process that for a little bit. Yeah, that's a bold statement. We'll talk about that more at the main event, but we've got like 3 hours worth of matches to think about it. But I never saw that coming, especially from Joe. If you do know anything about Joe, he's not usually in on Samoa Joe, so it's a
quite a.
We got some people who. I think you got new glasses, right? Did Reg get a haircut? Something is different, says Stock Mueller. Hey, if Zack Sabre Jr. is a technical wizard, the IT technical wizard, this guy right here, Chris Mueller, but saying JK, Kyle is a great choice to fill in, ROH expert. Absolutely. Was one of the first people that came to mind when I had to have a fill in. I was like, I know who I'm going to pull for this. Perfect set of circumstances to get you on here. But as you are a fan of the older ROH, I'm sure you know the CM Punk lariat clip with the aforementioned Samoa Joe. And boy, oh boy, if we didn't get a lot of short-armed lariats in the Death of Serpentico, RIP, Claudio Castagnoli and Serpentico in a Proving Ground match. I love Proving Ground matches. They're like one of my favorite rule devices in the whole wide world. But man, Claudio does short work of Serpentico here. RIP Serpentico's entire one-win win streak, really, I guess. So, what was a little frustrating about this episode was I was very glad that we actually had a champion back because our 6-man champs are MIA. We got an ROH championship tag match on AEW before we've had one in AEW since they won that ladder match. Very nice to have a champion around. However, 0 title defenses here. And Serpentico, an obvious outcome for what this was going to be. But I'm never sad to see Claudio in the ring doing what he does, and Serpentico is a whole heck of a lot of fun. Nyla Rose very happy today, I'm sure, as Serpentico ate lariat after lariat. Any thoughts on this incredibly artistic 30-minute classic that we got?
I mean, I wondered out loud on Twitter in the lead up to this match what the ruling would be if Claudio threw Serpentico into the sun. Whether that would be a count out or a disqualification or a ref stoppage, I wasn't sure. But
I don't know. See if that's under pure rules. I wonder if there's something that we get like,
there could
open
be,
fists, and then you get like one throw to the sun.
Oh god. No, it was an interesting match. I love that they're continuing to play on the story of Claudio struggling a bit with smaller opponents. We talked about this with AR Fox, with Blake Christian, with Ray Phoenix. That even dates back to the original ROH, and even in some cases in PWG, in Chikara, with El Generico, Matt Sydal, even Mike Quackenbush, who's one of his great all-time opponents. So that continues to be a thing for Claudio, and I do wonder if that's going to take part into how he eventually loses the title, if that's going to pay off there, or if that's still Eddie Kingston's title to win, Padna, or
you get me.
You
get us, Padna. Absolutely. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, what should Claudio's next story be? Eddie Kingston coming back certainly is what I want to see, and they have such a history. It seems like a good fit. I also threw out Takeshita, and I thought Takeshita would be probably the next best, but Stu Grayson, who we're going to talk about in a little bit here, as a solos champion in ROH, I think could be really fun. Do you have any thoughts?
See, one that immediately think about a real left field and they're probably needed in the tag division more, but Vincent springs to mind.
Ooh,
as an interesting possibility. Somebody who's going to be who's not going to be the standard high, is going to sort of try to screw with Claudio's head. He hasn't done that before. There's a lot of guys that are pretty good but I don't know. I like something different.
I would like something different too. I would also
like the real question is, and I told you this was coming, so be prepared for it. What would you like to see?
Oh, sorry that you cut out a little bit. Some people are. Keep that outfitting it. Neither is Kyle's internet. First of all, I'm adorable. Second of all, I ain't criticizing anybody else's internet. But what did you say? It kind of broke up there for a second.
Oh, the real important question is that Nigel suggested during the match: what type of a dog would Claudio Castagnoli be?
This is a good question because I feel like he's like controlled, but he's very aggressive in the ring. I feel like you're more qualified to speak on this because of your past job.
It's true. The one that immediately sprang to mind was a Mastiff.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Big, powerful fighting dog, hunting dog, protector, weapon in war.
I'm in.
That's Claudio.
I'm in on that being Claudio. I also appreciated Nigel was like, that'll be our show, Dog Talk, after this or whatever. That killed me. He was so good on commentary. But Tom LaValle agreeing with you about throwing people into the sun. He said he feels like Claudio could spin him into space. I've talked about this a little bit already, but I reiterate that I really liked the way that they scaled back the use of the swing, and that Claudio's resorted to different things as a heel because he's not going to give the crowd what they want in most cases. In the tag match when they did it, I felt like that was great because the swing was used to set something up for Wheeler Yuta. So I really, really, really liked that about it. So good stuff here. We'll see what's next for Mr. Claudio. I'm intrigued, but he's so prominently featured on AEW. I'm kind of like, it would be nice if he dropped the title.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to Kiera Hogan and Vert Vixen. Kiera Hogan picking up the win with a Saito suplex, which looked great. Nice to see Kiera Hogan in action. We're going to talk about Diamante in a little bit too, but some of these women and just honestly some wrestlers in general who haven't been getting reps like a JD Drake earlier that we saw tonight, getting some breathing room, which is what I wanted to see. I just want to see them like in storylines and consistently on here. But Kiera Hogan is one of them, right? Nothing's really happened with her since she departed from the baddies. They make reference to that on commentary here again. Vert Vixen, also a great talent that I think if they did want to sign would be a really good call here. We're going to talk a little bit later about what happens with Kiera Hogan, but it felt like she was a big deal. She brings a really special energy to everything she does, whether it's a move execution, facial expressions, promos. Like, she just comes in and is like, she's it, man. She's confident. She looks great. She's just so confident in who she is as a wrestler that it makes everything really, really fun to watch. I had no problems with this. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, the women's division, I mean, we talked earlier about there not being a lot of delineation in the rosters at this point. But what feels like the ROH women's division right now seems admittedly a little shallow at the top. You've got Athena, you've got Willow, who's clearly a big star. And beyond that, it feels like you're struggling to point to, another, this is clearly a top, person in the division, but it's very deep. It might be real shallow at the top, but overall the group is very deep. There's women like Vert Vixen, like Lady Frost, like Trish, Adora, and Diamante that we'll see later, who are super, super talented. But these are the names that the audience might not see as top stars yet. And all of them, it wouldn't take very long to heat them up to a title level program. Sure. And that's something that's fantastic to have for a booker, to be able to I could drop just about anybody from this division in with 2 or 3 wins and, away we go. Vert Vixen has continued to show me stuff every time I've seen her. Kiera Hogan, giving her some direction is fantastic. Just great stuff all around.
I'm with you. And I feel like you're right. They have a really deep roster, but we don't know who's actually signed, right? Like that's a piece of this, or we know through a report on FightfulSelect.com for just $5 a month, the most breaking news in all wrestling, that there are quite a few people that are being used on a regular basis that aren't signed. And I think that part of that is probably the ambiguity around that maybe they're not quite sure what they're doing. I think Willow was handpicked for this ROH women's division, and she's now walking in with the women's New Japan Strong title, which don't even get me started on how cool that is, because that's incredible already. But on top of that, now they're going to have a Dynamite roster, a Collision roster. I'm hoping that maybe leads to a women's tag division. If any American television promotion would like to book a women's tag division right, that would be delightful. Impact is close, but still not fully there. And then kind of what's left in ROH, right? But I agree with the people that we're seeing perennially. We'll talk about Diamante and Trish, Adora later and all of that. Lady Frost, Vert Vixen here. Some really great names kind of top of mind for if they did want to build out this. I also think the Athena reign, while she's mostly just chewing through people, has been phenomenal. Like it's just been so great. And we're going to talk about what we get a little bit later because I'm so excited for that. Another Claudio question. Chances we see Claudio use the UFO in ROH. Interesting.
He has before.
Yeah, I think with the Eddie feud, that would be a really fun way to go. He has used it before, right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure that he's used it in the new ROH, but he has used it in the promotion in the past.
Yeah, that would be a fun nod. That would be a fun nod for sure. Back here in Kiera Hogan and Vert Vixen world, we got a chat from Matthew Hook saying, should they do an all-women show? They have the wrestlers to do it and could easily team with Impact, Stardom, and New Japan to make an epic event. I think right now, to answer your question, yes, they could. There is Double or Nothing, All In and All Out, probably a women's blood and guts match, I'm assuming, all on the horizon. So, yes, I think they need to give breathing room to their creative. They have to see how Collision shakes out and go from there. But, man, women's wrestling is so great right now. Like, it's so awesome to see. Like, AEW still has a little bit of a ways to go, but they've come such a long way in the past year.
Dishonor.
Yeah, we've got Death Before Dishonor. Yeah, on the ROH brand proper. I got some delightful trolls. You know what, Matt Coon? I'll take your money. Things. I don't care. Dickhead, okay? I'll give you a Zack Sabre Jr. dickhead for this comment. Did you get enough in-ring storytelling? I got enough great in-ring action. I am frustrated by the lack of storytelling around here. But unlike Matt Coon, who is just loves the black and gold NXT and doesn't realize it was a ripoff of ROH, I will have patience and I will tune in more than 1 week in my life. If you want to see more of this fire, go check out my show with Matt Coon. I was on Wrestling Friends with Matt Coon this week. I had a delightful conversation with him. He's such a wonderful person in this space. We talked about things from a high level. We talked about things from a woman's perspective. We got into it with ROH a little bit, but a really delightful chat despite this trolling. But Tom LaValle with a question here saying, or input here saying, Emi Sakura, Yuka, we could get Ryu Mizunami back. She was so great. She like won that tournament and then they didn't really do anything. So see, Shame Monster gets me. Shame Monster gets me. Yeah, we should lecture Matt Coon for sure. But yeah, I think, obviously with everything that's going on in Japanese women's wrestling and Stardom, and with everything that's happening under New Japan proper, has been such an incredible development. I think the relationship with Impact is still there. If they wanted to team back up, I think they would just probably be a little bit more careful about the way that they went about it. But when AEW paired with Impact the first time around, I was like, oh, awesome. Like, their women's division is the best. And then they did nothing about it. But get me Deonna Purrazzo fighting some of these women. Please. Matt.
Well, do you wonder at some point, I feel like you also want to make sure you want to get Mercedes Moné back for that potentially. If the reports are true that it was in fact a broken ankle, that's probably at least 6, 8, 10 weeks, maybe more.
What a bummer. What a bummer that was.
If you want to do an all women's show, you got to think that's probably in the calculations as well.
Sure, and the way Impact is right now with Multiverse, you could probably do a Trinity Mercedes main event. Like, there are so many options there. So you can definitely do it. There's just a plethora of ways how, and they should do it the right way. Because you don't want to do what NWA did to their women's pay-per-view and ruin it for literally no reason. But we will move along away from Billy Corgan, thank God, on to something that was fantastic tonight. Kyle Fletcher and AR Fox. This was really, really nice. I saw a couple people, I think our friend SP3, who is on this channel and Fightful Overbooked, saying a nice cover-up by Ian Riccaboni for Kyle Fletcher coming out with his IWGP and New Japan Strong titles, saying that they relinquished them, but Tony Khan said one more time with them for the boys because they were being relinquished on a unfortunate injury to Mark Davis. I thought that was an extremely clever thing too. But this match was a whole heck of a lot of fun. Anytime I tweet like, guys, can you believe Kyle Fletcher's only 24? Everyone's like, holy crap, this guy's only 24? And it is really surprising, but some spots that I really liked in this, we do get Kyle Fletcher winning with a spinning hammerlock tombstone pile driver that looked fantastic, but this was a sprint, man. We got a spinning brainbuster from AR Fox in this. We got just like a really, really well executed backdrop off the apron from Kyle Fletcher with a power slam onto the floor. I loved how different this felt from the match we saw with Orange Cassidy yesterday, in my opinion. And AR Fox is on a run too. His match with Zack Sabre Jr. last week was great. This match was fantastic, but I love what we're seeing from Aussie Open. And Kyle Fletcher, he's a pretty sneaky, strong guy. What are your thoughts on your fellow Kyle?
I had a very similar thought about Kyle Fletcher, actually, that he's sort of gets the reputation as being the speed guy and the high flyer in Aussie Open because he's on there with Dunkzilla with Mark Davis. But he's sneaky strong for his size. He's got a deceptive amount of height, which is also something that really is interesting as well. And you know, it's scary how good he is at his age. You know, Aussie Open is one of the best tag teams in the world, but Kyle Fletcher could absolutely be a singles star, even if he looks like the Wish.com version of Will Ospreay.
Not necessarily a bad thing. Not necessarily a bad thing, but he does a little bit. It is his presentation and his in-ring smarts and how good he is at this age. Like, when you look at him, you're like, sure, I believe he's 24 with his haircut and the way he has a youthful look to him, but his presentation is not youthful at all. It's pretty cool. No. I also found out yesterday that Mikey Ruckus, before he was ever signed with AEW, wrote the Aussie Open theme, which I thought was a pretty fun fact. Because
I did not know that.
It is a banger. Yeah, I found that out yesterday. It was a fun one. A fun one, but good stuff here tonight, for sure.
Yeah. Also want to give AR Fox some love, too. He has been doing this. He has been so good for so long that he's only 35. It feels like he's been doing this forever, and he's only 35. And far too few people in the United States have really gotten to see how good he can actually be. And so, banger for him to get that opportunity. The only 100%. Complaint that I have here is the same complaint that I had with Kyle's match with Orange Cassidy. I'm sorry, I'm going to say an Avalanche Michinoku driver should end a match.
I can understand that. I can understand that. A hell of a one too. Like it's always so impressive looking. I thought on AR Fox, I buy it a little bit more. Orange Cassidy felt like that should have put that guy away yesterday. But I agree with you. I agree with you. This was great. And to your point about AR Fox, it's so nice to see him getting some shine here. And I don't ever think people are wrong when they describe him as a high flyer, but I guess I have a different perception of what a high flyer is in my head a little bit. I think AR Fox is incredibly well-rounded, and I just think of him as a great wrestler who has insane hang time when he chooses to go to the top rope. Like, he's so well-rounded. I think, Zack Sabre Jr. is kind of like Bryan Danielson, where I'm like, that's the highest form of cheating. If you're going to be like, oh, that guy had a great match with that guy, I'm like, that guy could have a great match with a broomstick. But when he's against a more technical opponent, I love seeing that side of him because we know what he can do spots wise, but when we get to see him kind of back to the fundamentals, you realize how good AR Fox is at all of this, which is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun when you get to see the well-roundedness of that. I think that happens with Darby a lot too. People are like, oh my God, that guy's like 110 pounds, but he heaves 110 pounds all over the ring. But then he has a match with MJF and you're like, oh, but he can really go like in a fundamentals way. So great to see that here. Some more love for the ladies. Woohoo! We got Willow Nightingale with, of course, a phenomenal rap by our commentary team defeating Hyen, who was a wonderful interview on In the Weeds on the Fightful Morning show, if you want some Fightful Morning. But Chris Mueller, our own technical wizard who fixed my internet and can probably fix everyone else's someday, says, if ROH had end credits, Athena and Willow would be the first listed. They are the true stars of the show. I love that we get to see them almost every week. It is, I think, week 2, we had a women's main event and 2 women's matches. And I was like, see how easy that is, people? And they've been the stakeholders, particularly because just by happenstance, I think of what's happening in AEW. A lot of the male champions have been Accent. Ray Fenix was injured for a while. Brian Cage, let's be honest, they didn't know what they were doing with him. And now Mogul Affiliates is awesome, but he's not really around. So the ladies are carrying the show. Darren Wall saying, great women's matches. Think Collision will be on AEW+. I do not. I think Collision will be on your cable TV because even though Saturday night's a not great ratings night, it's a very easy thing to be number 1 in right now. So they'll be highly rated. But you're right about these ladies matches. We get Willow winning here. No surprise. But a nice showing from Hyen, who's looked really good in these ROH opportunities as well. Winning with the Babe with the power bomb. And kind of the big thing here is just absolutely loving that Willow Nightingale has a New Japan Strong title. Like, I keep saying if it was 2021 and you said, like, yeah, 2 years from now, then Sasha Banks and Willow are going to have a women's title match on New Japan's B brand, I would have laughed you out of the room. And a ton of credit to Mercedes for being able to finish that match and getting back in there and calling that audible, because that was not the planned finish from what we've learned, it sounds like. So absolutely love Willow getting some gold here. Kind of funny she got it there before she got it in ROH or AEW, but for a backup plan, not a bad choice, Kyle. Thoughts on this Willow title and what we saw tonight?
Absolutely. I believe Tony said during the Double or Nothing media call today that, or at least intimated, that they have big plans for Willow. It seems abundantly clear from the way she's been presented as a big deal here in Ring of Honor. I've been banging the drum for a little while now. Give me Willow versus Athena, title versus title.
Ooh.
Find a big card to put it on, whether it's Forbidden Door, whether it's Death Before Dishonor, whether it's All In or All Out. Put Athena's ROH Women's World title against the New Japan Strong Women's title, and let's go.
You know what I love about that idea too is, character-wise, Athena and Willow are pretty much on opposite ends of the spectrum, obviously. But in the ring, like, they're both extremely strong, ass-kicking gals. And what I loved about where the match with Mercedes was going was, I have no complaints about Willow. I have a small complaint about the way her matches get agented sometimes, because sometimes it's like, Willow is so fun. Oh my gosh, no more Mrs. Nice, Willow. And then she puts someone away with like a pounce or the powerbomb. What was happening with Mercedes felt very different. Very different. And so I think a match like that, Willow versus Athena, title for title, that's got to be a Forbidden Door match, I think. Would give people a sight to see of Willow that maybe they haven't seen yet, because her matches tend to be similarly agented, in my opinion. But yeah, I love that idea. Let's do that at Forbidden Door. I want it. Any thoughts on Hyen too, and what we've seen from her so far? I think she's been awesome.
She's been great. This is Hyen's another great example of somebody in this division that's super talented, has their own following and their own thing going on, but hasn't really gotten the level of shine that you'd expect of a tip top kind of person, and that's fine. We've seen that all throughout the history of ROH in the first iteration, where I remember watching, to go back to the men, Kevin Steen and El Generico have like proving ground do or die matches, when they're first breaking in and losing to everybody. And that's such a thing in Ring of Honor, is showing up as a nobody, getting beat down by people, losing sort of competitive matches with the champs, and then just sort of gradually working your way up the ladder. And they have a litany of women in this division that can do that can take that exact trip. And Hyen is absolutely one of them. She's got a great deal of experience. She's coming from that Texas scene. I'm all in on the women's division they're building.
Me too. And in that interview that I referenced on In the Weed, she said she wants that New Japan Strong title. She wants to face some of the New Japan talent, which I thought that was a cool goal. Like, it was immediate. It wasn't like, well, let me think about it. Was what do you want next? It wasn't, oh, I want a contract at wherever. It was, I want that New Japan women's title. I was like, that rules. I love that for her. So she's fantastic, and I'm glad that we're getting to see more of her here. But a fun little match with a predictable ending, and we move on. We get the Kingdom and Mack Attack. Incredible pop for Willie Mack singing "Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go." I was singing it in my head. Phenomenal stuff. This is a fun little duo that I don't normally like teams that get put together because of a pun, but this is a team that supersedes the pun with Ninja Mack and Willie Mack. I like the duo and the differences in what they bring to the ring. But a standing moonsault by Willie Mack and Taven kicks out was kind of one of my favorite spots. But eventually we get to the Proton Pack for the W for the Kingdom. Your thoughts on this match?
Great stuff here. Willie Mack's got such a unique charisma about him that he just instantly draws your attention. Not least of which that he's a gigantic human being. That also probably helps with that. But no, it's a fun little team. I don't think it's probably going to wind up being long term. But it's good for a few matches. It's good for some fun. I think it was the right call for the Kingdom to get the win. Obviously, I'm a big believer in the established team should always get a win over the two single stars. Almost, maybe not always, but the vast majority of the time.
Pretty much
the established team should win those matches. They just should. And I think the Kingdom is getting built back up. I think the Kingdom versus the Lucha Brothers is a great tag title feud when we get there. This is and then you got to build them back up after the Fight Without Honor loss as well.
Right, exactly.
And I'm going to say I think they went to Fight Without Honor too fast with that Kingdom versus Martin and Andretti feud.
I agree. I think that just got screwed up because of the Dante injury, unfortunately. Like, I think that whole thing has felt stuck in the mud. Like, this, I am intrigued to see what happens here because it feels like the Kingdom are the ones doing all the work and that Rey Fenix and Penta have not been around as a duo. I know Rey was hurt. However, they had a match on AEW before they did it on ROH. And you know what? That kind of grounds my gears a little bit. A little bit.
Yeah, mine too.
It's wrestling. I'm not actual upset. But Michael Arnieri, I hope I said that right, says, how about Willow defeats Jade for the TBS title? They had an opportunity to do it. They had an opportunity to do it at Battle of the Belts and make Battle of the Belts mean literally anything instead of defenses where the champions literally always retain except for once. I would love to see that. I'll bring up again, I might have brought this up already, so apologies if this is redundant to any of our audience, but Alex Pulowski, my delightful Sour Graps host, said it would have been cool to have Jade have lost the title to Toni Storm, Ruby Soho, someone on the bad girl side, Saraya even, because then she would have a reason as a day one competitor to be on the good girl side for this feud, and it would feel so much more relevant again, and it's an easy way to get the TBS title back on Dynamite without any work, really. And it does make no sense that the homegrown side has not thought, what about the woman who looks like a goddess and has never lost? Should we maybe tap on her for this angle? But they're clearly married to the idea of it's got to be a huge thing. It's got to be Chris Statlander probably, or somebody coming back, or if they do have Mercedes in the wings, whatever that looks like. But I just loved that idea because it would have really consolidated kind of the issues that they're having there. I love Willow's championship material. I do think I don't want to say it's too early for her because I think she's capable and she's hot right now. But I think you can wait another couple months to put a title on her if you have to, because I think she's kind of like Orange Cassidy in that she'll just be perpetually over all the time. She's so magnetic. Yeah. She's so great. So there's not a rush, but she is white hot right now. What do you think about Jade in this TBS title reign? Thoughts on Willow, but thoughts on who you think is actually going to dethrone this woman?
I don't hate the idea of Taya. I think that's very workable. I think you've hit most of the milestones that you want to hit with her at this point, and Taya is a big enough name that could come in and do that. And I feel like you can still parlay that into a reason for Jade to join up with the originals after that.
Sure.
Because Taya is a major name from somewhere else that parachuted into AEW and is right away in the title picture and waltzes in and takes her title. She can take that and hold that against all of these, latecomers, the outcasts as they were, and there's your justification right there. So
I like
you can play with that.
I like that a lot. My only complaint about this is that this angle has been built at 5:30 p.m. Rampages and Saturday Rampages. Like, it is just all over the place. But we've got some love in the chat from Meet Normus. Hi, Meet Normus. Always supporting us, saying, to whom it may concern, I'm smoking baby back ribs and pork shoulder. That sounds delightful. Just wanted to say, sup, partners? I love wrestling. Toodles. Well, thank you for the Tiffany Stratton reference in the kind chat. We appreciate it. I feel like they thought it was going to be Chris Statlander, and I think it still is Chris Statlander unless she has some setback that we don't know about yet. But I more just feel like you're now at the point where you're doing a disservice to Jade by keeping it on her. So I wouldn't be mad if it was Taya Valkyrie at all. I think that would be a perfectly reasonable solution. So we move along to a couple more women's matches. We get some back-to-back ones here. Mercedes Martinez and Dream Girl Ellie, who, darn it, she asked for a timeout and it wasn't granted. What a fun personality. What a fun personality, especially in a show that is dense like this. So much fun to have like her whole presence in the ring was so it was so light, and Mercedes Martinez is such an ass kicker. Like, it was a lot of fun, but this one went the way we expected. Nice to see Mercedes Martinez back. She lost that title to Athena, let's not forget. So that could be a fun competitor waiting in the wings, but we get a knee to the face. And again, by Martinez, we get 3 of them and a forearm to the back of the head. Brass City Sleeper looked phenomenal tonight. She looked like such a badass. She gets the win here. Great to see her shine. Absolutely adored this. Poor Dream Girl Ellie. I hope she comes back around. She's a delight. But this did what it was supposed to do, I think. This is established. Mercedes Martinez is back. And, buddy, that submission. Yowza. Your thoughts?
Oh, it was nasty. It was rough. I loved it. Yeah, this was exactly what it needed to be and what we expected it to be. Mercedes is just really fulfilling that role as just a babyface ass kicker, not taking any problems from anybody else. And as Ellie learned, clock management is important. You've got to make sure you can serve those timeouts, because otherwise you're gonna be in trouble later.
It's true. She might be coaching the Giants. She's so bad with the clock management, man. It's a rough one. But good stuff here, guys. This is a long card, okay? We're not even halfway through it, but we're doing all right. And we are so thankful for your support. So please get in your super chats and your humper chats. If you would be so kind to leave a thumbs up on this video, we would definitely appreciate it. Got a little bit longer to go, but we will remind you also that the Fightful Impact post show is on Fightful Overbooked because we had to go head-to-head because this was a marathon today. However, check them out if you have the time to. They've got a pay-per-view this weekend. Trinity is back. They have a ton of really, really great momentum happening in Impact right now. Steve Macklin in his title reign. There's a lot of really wonderful things. I don't watch the project because I'm doing this usually, but I use that as my cliff notes to keep up with it and to look at matches that they talk highly about. If you're not familiar with Cresta Star too, she's going to be on your AEW Collision post show with Rick and Iridian. She is so much damn fun. You are going to, if you don't know her, you're depriving yourself of falling in love with someone. I don't know how else to say it. Cresta is just the most incredible woman. Oh, I adore her. So go check her out. But speaking of women we adore, we've got Ashley D'Amboise versus Danielle Kamella, I think. A quick one here. She wins with the Uranagi, which was good. Decent little match, but I think we're starting to see, we found out that Ashley was signed on FightfulLive.com for $5. And I think they're trying to establish who is going to be strongholds in this women's division, as you were alluding to before, that it is actually deep, just not at the top. So this was her beating the van, as our dear Louise said. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, this was it was an interesting little match. It was nice to see Danielle get a little bit of shine in the process too, and looked decent for herself. The last time that she was involved in something ROH adjacent was losing a Proving Ground match to Athena back in February. So we haven't seen her around very much. But Ashley's clearly super talented. She's athletic. She's got a great little skill set. but this is something where he talked about in-ring storytelling, where I'd love more of an interview, not just maybe not just a backstage one, maybe I don't know they need to go vignette, but give us something to really latch on to, of why we should care. I'm enjoying her because she's very talented in the ring, but the audience hasn't quite bought in, and it's like you need to give them something to hook into.
Something to invest in. I agree. Shea Monster saying beating Stokely is no views. It's funny you bring up Stokely because Stokely put out a little bit of a vignette on social media that was interesting. He was going into Tony Khan's office. He was taking the pictures off the wall. He was putting up some beautiful ladies and some other things, taking down the Jaguars and making the office his own. One thing that ROH doesn't have that it could probably benefit from is an authority figure. And we've heard hints of this. He did an interview with Talk is Jericho and talked about the possibility of returning to ROH. The firm is busted up. I think, that might not be a bad call. And he's such a great on-screen personality. I think that could be a really fun direction if that's where they're headed. Unless he's just taken over the whole damn company. Unless maybe he's done with wrestling and he wants to be running football clubs and the Jaguars and whatever. Maybe he's just trying to fill Tony Khan's shoes across the board. But what do you think about a Stokely Hathaway ROH presence?
Or maybe it's going to be Trevor Lawrence's new agent.
Maybe he is. Maybe he is. You know what I mean? Take Trevor Lawrence to the pay window. Get him a haircut.
There you go. It could work. ROH has done a number of, they usually call them matchmakers, authority figures, whatever. Nigel McGuinness was one for a long, long time. Even Jim Cornette was for a while during the HDNet era. So there's definitely a history of it. They've never had an explicitly heelish authority figure. So that would be something that's a little, at least that I can recall. So that would be something that's a little bit different for the promotion.
Not?
No, I don't believe so.
He was kind of more neutral. I think you're right from what I remember, which is not a lot, admittedly.
He did have the one run around 2000 and because it was Death Before Dishonor 4 was Cage of Death, the CZW feud. So that puts it in 2006 when he was around, and but that was more specific. But that was more specifically directed at Homicide and Low Key. That wasn't really heel for the entire roster. That was just, I don't like these guys in particular. So
sure.
Not quite the same thing there.
And now he makes fun of them on his own podcast, but we move along to Rocky Romero and Titus Alexander, which was honestly more fun than I thought it was going to be. We got Rocky with the W and we got some banger themes. All right. We got some really fun themes tonight. Rocky's being one of them. But he hits the Diablo armbar, which was super fun. I was impressed with Titus Alexander. I liked what we got out of him today. Any thoughts on this? I just am continually blown away by how good Rocky Romero is at everything he does in this business. Like, he's really good at booking. He's a phenomenal commentator. He's real good in the ring. He's real good at directing traffic when it's a multi-man match. Like, he's so great at all of these things. I don't really know what to say more than that because I'm just so blown away by everything he chooses to do.
He's a former multi-time Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champion. He's one of only 2 or 3 guys to have held that title with 3 partners, which is kind of a fun little accolade for him.
That is.
He was one half of the Havana Pit Bulls. He was one half of the No Remorse Corps with Davey Richards. And he also held it with Forever Hooligans with Alex Kozlov.
My God. It is, so. You know what? They do such a good job of everything on commentary, but they haven't leaned into that a ton. I'm sure they will at some point. Maybe if he's in a more consistent tag-driven program, but I've loved what they've been doing that with Christopher Daniels. I hope they kind of loop back around with that with Rocky. They might not want to lean too hard into it for the obvious reasons of douchebag ties, but that's a really good point, especially if he gets a tag team partner or brings a tag team partner from the other side.
Daniels is actually another one that has that accolade. He's held the tag titles.
Yeah, are they the only 2?
I believe Jimmy Jacobs as well.
Okay, that would make sense. That would make sense.
Daniels with Donovan Morgan, Matt Sydal, and Frankie Kazarian. And Jacobs with BJ Whitmer, Steve Corino, and Tyler Black.
Tyler Black, what'd that guy ever go on to do?
Nothing much, I'm sure.
Nothing much. Not lining up to be a champion on Raw anytime soon. That's for sure.
Oh, and since you said Kyle Fletcher is only 24, I believe Titus Alexander is only 22.
I was gonna, yes. So, I'm glad you brought that up too. Like, there's a whole crop of this younger generation that, you know, I was gonna say are kind of more old school or whatever, but it's not even that. It's so connected to the fundamentals of pro wrestling. I remember seeing the wonderful Sam Adonis in an interview talking about, like, we say old school when we should be saying fundamental a lot of times. And I agree with that. Like, I think that's a really important distinction because it's not necessarily old school. It's just like when you do the basics of pro wrestling extremely well, which is what we saw on display tonight. I think that it's just refreshing to see. Like, Kyle Fletcher definitely falls into that category. MJF is, even though it feels like he's been around for a long time because he's such a young veteran at this. It's so much fun to see the diversity and the types of storytelling we're getting in that way from this younger generation. But we move on, as I sound 9 million years old by saying that, to the Righteous and Stu Grayson defeating LSG, Marcus Kross, and Barry Morale. This is fun for me because I'm a big LSG mark and a friend of his, just quite transparently. I think he's great. This was a quick one and served a bigger story, but I'm glad to see people like LSG, people like Cheeseburger in the mix, right? Like these people that were there when the shutdown happened, still being thrown around in here. Marcus Kross, I think, has been definitely a standout as well, but ultimately this ends with the Righteous and Stu dominating the match. The Dark Order coming out to watch the Nightfall from Stu Grayson get the pin. And this is an interesting little story that we have brewing. And I'm not sure either team walks away with Stu Grayson. I think Stu Grayson might choose Stu Grayson at the end of this. And what's left over is the Dark Order and Vincent and Dutch hating each other because neither of them got kind of this prize. What it does make me concerned about is Evil Uno, right? Like, he was directionless when Stu left the first time. Stu's come back and he's kind of still not like fully ingrained in anything. But I thought this served its purpose pretty well. Was a much needed shorter match and a very, very long card. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, it was. It definitely. I guess it sort of advanced things. We got some interesting interactions, especially post match. You had Vincent hitting the Autumn Sunshine, and then still allowing Stu to tag in, making a point to tag Stu in to allow him to hit Nightfall to do his thing. And that was something that commentary brought up as well during the match, was that Stu's really enjoying the level of violence that the Righteous is inflicting and letting him inflict as part of the group, and how that might play into his decision making.
Sure.
And after the confrontation with Dark Order at the top of the ramp, you saw him take that left hand turn and go down the path that the Righteous did as he left.
It does actually feel like I was kind of in the camp of, can the Dark Order have a storyline that doesn't involve someone leaving them in the dust at any point in this company? Like, it has just felt like the entire Dark Order story is, we are henchmen from people who leave us. But this story is actually really, really working because Stu kind of fits in with the Righteous with the way this is going. Like, I buy into the idea that he might actually be a better fit here. So it's kind of a fun one. We get this nerd chiming back in. We get the wonderful Matt Coon saying, should ROH have long-term brand exclusive wrestlers? Yes. Or maybe have AEW top stars do tours? Yes. Yes, 100%.
That's fine too.
I think that's part of what the problem is. I think it's dual and that your ROH champions are busy doing some of the most important work that AEW is offering. And we don't have any delineation around who is on ROH specifically. And I think they're going to position it to be something like developmental. I also feel like a great way to alleviate the crowded roster. It's going to be a little less crowded soon. We're going to get Collision, but people who are established but not really doing anything in AEW going down to ROH to help this young talent grow is a great use of them. I think it's a really, really fun idea. I think that's part of why the Lucha Brothers won the tag titles, because it's kind of like, well, you have the brother story, right? Which is just a beautiful handoff from Jay and Mark, but also, you know, they can't keep fighting the Young Bucks. They can't really fight FTR. You know, building out a feud with them in Top Flight and ROH would be something that is more productive than doing it in AEW at this point from a screen time perspective, right? So I was kind of surprised when they won, but then I thought, oh man, that makes a world of sense for just the reason that chat alluded to. What are your thoughts on what the delightful nerd Matt Kuhn, who is chatting on a show that he doesn't even like, thank you for the support, has to say, because it is a really good point.
Hey, you know, I'd be thrilled to be called a delightful nerd, but that's
we're wrestling fans.
There you
you're
go.
Either a troll or you're a delightful nerd. There's not really a lot in between.
There you go. There you go. Yes to both questions, like you said. Fully agree. Long-term brand exclusive wrestlers, I feel like, is critical. You really need to have at least some level of core that you can keep going back to and you can build around. But no, I'm not averse to the idea of top stars doing tours, showing up for matches here or there. That's always good for a fun pop and an open challenge, something like that.
Probably I think not bad for subscriptions either. Just gonna throw that out there. But yeah, I think that's part of the... I'm trying to be patient with it because I know they have a whole other roster to create. But I thought coming out of the last pay-per-view, we were going to get a ton of clarity around that. And it's taken a step back, I feel like, in that way. So that is where I'm a little frustrated. But I still love this brand. So.
Absolutely. It's I've been a fan since like 2003. It's 2002, 2003. So since the beginning.
Favorite presentation when they do have the stories to fill in, which is why it's maddening that there's no stories being filled in. Not a single title match in a 19-match card, but we have a whole lot of fun with Shane Taylor and Tracy Williams right here. Shane Taylor picking up the W with a package pile driver and what was a fun match. I don't know how I feel about the Workhorseman and Shane Taylor. And it's not that I don't like it. I think I just still have Shane Taylor promotions in my head. A little bit. Like, I feel like Shane Taylor ring-wise and the Workhorseman make a ton of sense. I feel like Shane Taylor and the Workhorseman character-wise are kind of in different worlds so much it's not necessarily like the way it's contrasted where that's really fun. It just feels a little like less cohesive. But very happy to see Shane Taylor here. He did injure himself at the set of tapings, I believe, unfortunately. I don't think anything terribly serious, but good to see him here. And nice to see how it saw Tracy Williams. I think one of those people that we were mentioning in the former ROH group that shut down and underrated because he kind of is always in a stable where he's quietly executing or something. It seems like he gets a little bit pushed off to the side, but this was perfectly suitable. I will say some of these matches felt like we didn't have to have them in a 19-match card. This was probably one of them.
Yeah. And we were talking about this before we went live. Like it was objectively a fantastic match. It was a lot of fun to watch. I was excited from the time that I heard it announced, but in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it didn't do anything.
Yeah, it was. And I don't mind when that's the case sometimes, especially because ROH historically has used standings extremely well. So if it's just a fun matchup and the win means I moved up in the rankings for like the pure division, for example, then it's not pointless. Like there's still stakes involved. When we don't have any of that and we have no story and you have 18 other matches, it's a little much. But
that
just
said,
for
either of these guys against Samoa Joe would be, it'd be a first-time match either way, and either one would be amazing for wildly different reasons.
I don't want to say owed because it's not like they've shown us anything on screen that indicates that we're owed that, but like I gotta see Shane Taylor and Samoa Joe. I gotta.
It'd be amazing.
It would be amazing. Guys, get in your super chats and your humper chats. We finally made it over the halfway mark. God bless. But we've got a lot of fun to talk about coming up. And just for Matt Kuhn, we get a little bit more story on the way, finally, and for me too. But we get an ROH Women's Championship Proving Ground match. Athena and Promise Braxton. I really liked a lot of what happened here. This was very well done. This is what ROH does great when they are telling stories, was kind of how this got set up, in my opinion. Promise Braxton was there to do what she was going to do, right? She was not going to last the 10 minutes. She was not going to defeat Athena here, but she got some offense in and she looked great. She's a really interesting wrestler. Like, from a moveset perspective and a presence, she had like this vulnerability against Athena that I feel like, because you're trying to match Athena's brutality so much, sometimes that gets lost because so many women are trying to muscle up. I felt like Promise Braxton, you could see her kind of being like, whoa, okay, let me recalculate or whatever. Like little things like that made this really a lot more interesting than some of these matches that we get. But ultimately, Athena defeats Promise Practice with the Promise Braxton. We got a lot of talking to do. It's 19 matches, guys, with the Cobra Clutch crossface. And out comes Kiera Hogan as the first person to kind of get the better of Athena, I don't know, since the promotion restarted. And later we get Athena losing her mind on, I think it was Dasha. Was it Dasha or Lexi Nair?
It was Lexi. Why would you send Lexi back there? What, do you hate her? What are you doing?
They send Lexi back there. They tell Athena, how does it feel to get a taste of your own medicine? Which is just going to set Athena off. That's exactly what happened. She doesn't lay a hand on Lexi, but she does destroy some things backstage, but it leads to her challenging Kiera Hogan, which is great, for a title match. And I loved the fire that Athena came in with. Was very much like that thing where people goat you into doing something that you probably shouldn't have done, but in the heat of the moment you made that decision. Like, that's what this kind of read like. Makes Kiera Hogan look smart. Athena still obviously looks like a badass. That it's impossible for her not to. But Kiera Hogan kind of getting reintroduced into things and immediately feeling important, I think, is really good. What did you think of the through line we got here? Because we did finally get a story in the show.
It was an interesting choice. Honestly, if it was name dropping people that I would have expected to see pop in and hit the title scene, Kiera Hogan probably wouldn't have been somebody I would have expected. And that's not to be a dig on Kiera Hogan per se. It's just that was not a name that I would have thought about. She hasn't been presented in or around ROH.
Yeah, she wasn't on the radar of it. Trish Adora and Sky Blue and Billy Starks, like people like that we've been seeing a lot of. So yes, to your point, agreed with that entirely. But this was a fun surprise.
Yeah, but this said, yeah, like you said earlier, she brings great fire. She brings great intensity and realism to everything that she does. I think you're seeing, and I don't know if there was anything to this or not. I timed it out. The match with Promise Braxton went about 6 minutes, give or take. So a little longer than it's taken to put away previous Proving Ground opponents. I don't know if there's any relevance there. You're seeing less and less to set her off backstage. You know, I wonder if you're telling this culminating story of Athena starting to crack under the pressure of being as dominant as she's been. And yeah, it's actually where that might go.
She kind of, in a very, very, very different way, but the story we're getting with Zack Sabre Jr. that we're going to see later with his TV title reign was like, he views it as a loss if he can't beat someone in the time frame, right? Like, which I love that, because he doesn't lose his title at all. Like, it's totally fine, but like somebody going the distance, he is mad about it, and that feels like a loss. I feel like that's Athena. Like, the further someone gets into a Proving Ground match, like, I should have squashed them in minute 1. I love that. I love when champions feel like you get a victory by beating the hell out of someone. You don't get a victory by their weak little rules around it. Is like a fun way to play with that. So good.
Well, and I love the way that Athena has been manufacturing challengers for herself. I think the commentary mentioned that at one point that the head office doesn't feel like, or is concerned about, the number of young women in the division, and that they don't know that they're necessarily ready for a title shot or something like that. So Athena is now just taking it into her own hands and just stirring up trouble with anyone that she can think of or anyone that she feels like to generate title shots for herself.
One might even say porcelain hussies, because that's what she's
One
going
might.
around calling people around. I love it. Can't quite say that about Kiera Hogan, though. She doesn't really fall into that umbrella, but some good stuff there. And it was nice to see, because her title reign, she's been the MVP week over week of ROH. Nice to see that continue to develop. Like, this has meant something. When she loses that title, it's going to pay off in a major way. And I think she'll be a force to be reckoned with. My guess is she probably moves on to AEW, because she's not just having the best go in women's wrestling under the AEW umbrella. You can make an argument that she is the best go right now in basically all of wrestling as far as title reigns go. Like, this has been work to be seen, but some other work to be seen. A match that you should seek out in this monstrosity of a taping. Dralistico and Tony Deppen had a match, man. This absolutely ruled. Tony Deppen, unfortunately, suffering a broken arm right now. He has merch. Please go buy it if you can afford it. Support him while he is injured. He is a fantastic wrestler who was doing work all over ROH, GCW, all over the indies. Please support him if you can, because he's out for a few months. But we get a match here, and I was surprised this wasn't where he got injured, because they beat the hell out of each other, and he had some spots, let me tell you. But
yeah, they really did.
They did. Like, this was I don't know. It's not like I didn't expect what we got, but I also didn't expect what we got. Like, this was a lot of fun. But Dralistico winning here with the Lemistico into an armbar. So much fun to be had here. 1,000,000 miles an hour. Tony Deppen is one of those guys who he's much like Aussie Open. I'm like, you got to see that guy live. It's just a different energy. He's so much fun. But God, what a blast of a performer. He's so good at making you just want to just like roll your eyes at him if you don't want to slap him. Like, so much fun. Great in-ring chemistry too. This was one of those matches that you were like, this just clicked in. Any particular spots here that you wanted to call out, or any thoughts on this match?
No, just the overall presentation of just those two just beating the daylights out of each other. It was just a great presentation. Deppen is just such a fun performer and can do so many things in so many ways. He is so versatile. If he's not under contract, he absolutely needs to be. I think you said something about that on Twitter, and like, oh, please, my goodness,
sign Tony Deppen. My God, that's something we've been asking for since before the promotion shut down. But I don't know what this dude is doing unsigned, because any wrestling company is better with him in it. He's unreal.
But yeah, 4 days after this match was taped, Deppen broke his arm in a freak accident in a match for GCW with Zack Sabre Jr. And
little did they know at this time, right?
Yeah, right.
Tony Deppen would have interfered in the main event. Just made it not happen.
And I had a moment. I had a moment where I thought about that as Dralistico taps him out with the Lemistico into the arm bar. It's like, wait.
I thought about that too. I was like, wait, did it happen? It didn't happen at the ROH taping, right?
Hold on. Yeah.
But good stuff. This was, I loved the main event as match of the night, but this was right there with it. Like, if you're going to go seek something out, if you're like, I don't feel like sitting through 3 hours of matches with hardly any story, if you watch to see 1 or 2, this is definitely on that list for sure. This was great stuff. We're moving along, guys. Please leave a thumbs up if you're joining us a little bit late. We'll also remind you to subscribe to the good old Fightful Select. You know what? There's a lot of pay-per-views this weekend. We got Battle of the Super Juniors finishing up. We got Night of Champions. We've got NXT Breaking Ground. We've got Double or Nothing. Double or Muffin. We've got a lot happening. And when there's a lot happening, there's a lot of news happening. And you can find all the latest and greatest breaking news on Fightful Select, as well as a lot of bonus podcasts back there, including myself on post shows with Alex Pulaski after basically every pay-per-view you could ever want, except for NXT ones, because we're on the main channel for that. You'll also get Ask Rhapsody. You'll get The List Goes On with Jimmy Van, our owner, and Sean. That's a really great one if you're someone who likes a business perspective. Jimmy is great for that, and Ask Rhapsody, and a ton of others. So subscribe to Fightful Select. It's $5 a month. Best $5 in the biz, if you ask me. And I'm extremely biased, but I think it still holds up. But, and you can, of course, send in a super chat or a humper chat. We've got a really weird, funny thing with Nick Commorotto to talk about later. We've got Diamante on track versus Trish Adora. We've got an incredible main event. So if you want your statement or question read on air, send it a super chat or a humper chat. But like, also just like leave us a thumbs up because it helps people find us in the algorithm and it's totally free. So that's my white girl pitch to you. And speaking of white girls, we got Sky Blue here versus Miranda Alizé, who is a lucha baddie, not necessarily a white girl. I love Miranda Alizé, man. And Sky Blue, I think, is improving every time we see her for the most part. Like, her match versus Athena was her best match that I've seen under the AEW umbrella for sure. But I'm just not fully bought in yet. I don't have to be yet. She's a baby. But I love Miranda Alizé. And this match was perfectly fine. I don't love Sky Blue also getting a lot of... It feels like she gets a lot of cheap victories when she's been getting victories in ROH. This was a victory that was a counter for a roll-up, I believe. And I just haven't loved some of the stuff they're doing in ring with her in that way, but her execution is getting better and her in-ring storytelling is getting better. Miranda Alizé, so much personality, catches my attention in a new way every time I see her. Awesome look to her, awesome facial expressions, and just she just jumps off the screen at you every single time. Like, I love her and her work. And she's improving in ring wise week over week every time I see her as well. But like, her greatest strength to me is I'm like, man, she does something different to get my attention anytime I see her in there. And usually it's something that is sacrificing to make her opponent look really good in the process. So kind of a double win there. Any thoughts on this match?
Yeah, like you said with Sky Blue, I think I see you continue to see the improvement there. I do kind of agree. I've seen her have really excellent matches in Warrior Wrestling, in AAW, like in places and other promotions like that. Outside of the Athena match, I don't think we've seen how good she can be in other places. Outside of the Athena match, I don't think we've really seen that breakout performance in AEW or ROH.
Well, she only loses in AEW. She had a good she had a good one with Britt, if I remember right, on Rampage. But she's only won in ROH except for the title match, and she's only lost in AEW, which is another pain point. But yes. I agree with you. Some of the things I've seen from outside of TV wrestling is some of her better work, stronger work for sure.
Well, and Miranda Alizé is somebody that I mentioned as well. If she is not signed, sealed, delivered, why?
Yeah.
If she is not under contract, get her under contract. She is an instantly credible title contender. She's super talented. She draws your attention. I don't know what else I can say to, like, this is clearly someone you need to have under contract.
Sure, I agree, and wholeheartedly. She was in before ROH shut down, her and Roxanne Perez on NXT, formerly Roxy, were the finals for that title as they were kind of rebooting things, even though it somehow felt like Willow was at that time. Like, she was just red hot, but she's been on my radar for a while, and she just keeps getting better and better. Michael Arnieri, I hope I said it right again. I think Miranda had a better match last week with Lady Frost. Your thoughts? I agree. I think just the way it was put together and the fact that it wasn't in the middle of 18 other matches probably helped. But Lady Frost is someone who I've gotten to review now consistently here, and I'm so happy I get to, because she's someone that like has married her acrobatic prowess with her hard hitting side perfectly. Like, she has unlocked her bliss point, and I think it was whatever run she was doing in Mexico, because she was definitely a little bit more acrobatic, and not horrendously, but a little bit more telegraphed and more show of athleticism. And now it's all come together with the way that she's leading into things. And the other side of that is Miranda Alizé knows exactly what to do with that. Like, she knows exactly how to treat an opponent like that. I liked last week's match a little bit better. I think some of this suffered from fatigue of how many matches we had here. But your thoughts on last week's match?
Yeah, no, I would agree as well. I've become a big fan of Lady Frost. I wasn't super familiar up until recently, since she started appearing in ROH, and she got her really nice Dynamite appearance with Taya, which was great to see. I didn't feel like they leaned into the Mexican connection with Frost and Taya, or that they both spent time in Mexico, worked down there. That feels like that would be a natural thing for commentary to pick up on. And I don't recall a point being made of it, although I don't know if they may have crossed paths or not. But no, she's another example of somebody who's going to be a big star if they continue to build her correctly.
Shea Monster with a chat here saying TK should let Maria help with ROH Women's Creative. TK should let Maria help with all women's creative. In my opinion, biggest highlight of the ROH pandemic era was her testimonials with Roxanne Perez, Willow, and Trish. That tournament, for a brand that I don't want to, I think that is fair to say, that probably didn't take women's wrestling very seriously for the most part. What that tournament did, I thought was incredible. I felt like they achieved so much in a short amount of time, and I felt like diversity, not only from like a cultural standpoint, but diversity of ring styles. Like, people forget Max was in that, right? Like, who's in Japan right now killing it, but I would love to see Max back. But you had Willow, you had Roxanne, you had Miranda Alizé, you had Trish Adora really breaking out in that. I felt like if you listen to anybody, especially Ian Riccaboni, talk about that tournament, the credit that is given to Maria, and that she was the one who put all of that on her back and created something really special, is incredibly heartwarming. It's really, really wonderful to hear those things. So I agree with you. Let Maria help with everything.
Agree. No, that's great. And far be it, I don't want to sound like I'm taking credit away from Maria, because she deserves all of it. But I'm also a big believer in giving everybody their flowers too. And Bobby Cruz did a whole bunch of work with that too. And again, that's not to take any shine away from Maria, because she's phenomenal, deserves all the flowers that she gets. But Bobby Cruz has done a lot of work as well, and sometimes doesn't get the credit for that because of the great work he does as the ring announcer. But
so what I heard is that you hate women. No, I'm just kidding.
And that's going to get clipped.
Kyle hates women.
That's going to get clipped. That's going to be on. Be all over Twitter tomorrow. I'm doomed. I'm completely hosed now.
I don't know why. I've been doing that to everybody this past week or so. I've just been like, why don't you support it? Anytime somebody's just like busted my balls, I'm like, support women. Michael Arnieri, whose name I am saying right, and who Sean did not say right on Monday. I'm just going to leave this up so that I can take a picture of it later and let Sean know that I'm better than him, and he knows it. Thank you so much for the extra.
Or he does now.
He does now, baby. I love how I say that. Like, Sean doesn't have me on this channel or Fightful Select basically every day of the week. So like he's holding me back in any way. No, thank you so much for the chat, and I will let Sean know, because he should say it right, and more importantly, it's a victory lap for me, so I'll take it. Hey, here's a match that didn't need to be on this card. Darius Martin and Action Andretti versus Zack, Clayton, and Cole Karter. I was getting a little tired at this point in the show, but thankfully pretty much everything after this really took us home. There was not anything wrong with this match. Darius and Action Andretti keep it going with a win here. I don't have any interest in Zack, Clayton, and Cole Karter, unfortunately, either individually or as a tag team right now. I'm just not bought in. They haven't given me a reason to be, which I think is part of it. But I also feel like Action Andretti being top flight adjacent guy, when they had such an unresolved thing with Jericho on the main roster that they were begging to resolve and not doing it, is weird. This just felt extremely superfluous to me. No fault of anybody really involved. But if out of 19 matches I needed to remove a couple, this would probably be on the short list, because it didn't really lead to anything. Always good to see people getting reps. Nothing offensively bad in here. Just was kind of there. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Aggressively fine is the way that I would describe it. It's
aggressively fine. Taken, stealing that phrase, using it for any Rampage review I do, probably.
Oh god, like Cole Karter is a talented kid. He's clearly got a bright future. He's got a lot of good going for him. I don't see it with Zack Clayton right now. He has the look and feel of somebody that Ohio Valley Wrestling would have churned out in 2003, and
He does have that.
Like,
he does have that. That creator wrestler-ish kind of.
It's fine. It's fine. It's what it is. The thought experiment that occurred to me though during this as I'm watching, because my mind's wandering because we're on like match 750 something or whatever it is here.
3080. Yeah.
Is how many tag titles do you suppose Top Flight would have won by now if they could both stay healthy?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Between Darius getting injured, between Dante getting injured, one or the other, like you gotta imagine there'd be at least one, maybe more, just completely snake bit young men. It's sad to see in essence.
Especially because it was Darius. Darius came back immediately, had to fight another set of injuries, and then comes back, and a couple of weeks later, Dante is out. Just a rough one. Hey, we're just gonna throw this in there because Lady Frost is so great. She is like a little bit older, definitely older than WWE considers, and she's so fantastic. I need Frost on my TV way more. She's fantastic. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
I think things are heading in a positive direction with her, though. We're seeing them give her more and more time, so that makes me very, very happy. She's introduced on the Independents as the Queen of Murder Gymnastics, which is just my favorite thing to call someone.
That's really good. I might have stolen that too. Right?
Yeah, it's a good one. All right, I have no idea what the hell this was, and I don't hate it, but I don't know if I like it. I was just taken aback quite a bit. This was giving what is the Stig dinner musical number vibes. This was so out of left field. I didn't hate it. Nick Commorotto, who I'm guessing just reads all the anti-AEW tweets in the world, because that's what this promo felt like, comes out in a hat with a lollipop and gives Luis called it an objectively hilarious Nick Commorotto interview to set up Blake Christian and Nick Commorotto. I was mostly just like, what? I like the idea of him breaking out of maybe the less personality infused Bruiser Brody situation. He does have a very big personality if you've seen him in interviews and things. This was an interesting little direction to go. I'm going to have to sit with it for a little bit. What did you think of this new Nick Commorotto presentation? And what the hell is it, Kyle?
Well, the whole Nicky Boy presentation had been a thing with the factory going back a few months at this point, actually, as I recall. And I do have to chime in with echoing the sentiments of our resident IT expert, Chris Muller.
Thank you for giving him his proper title. If you have, by the way, any issues with the Bleacher Report app, this is important. I can't believe I almost forgot. You're going to have issues with the Bleacher Report app. It happens sometimes, okay? With the Double or Muffin pay-per-view. BR_doctor on Twitter, and he will fix them instantly for free. Go on.
He observed at one point that I don't recall ever having actually heard Commorotto speak before. And as I'm watching the interview, I was like, I don't remember ever hearing his voice.
It's a very fair point.
The first thought that sprang to my mind, since the commentary is talking about how Italian Commorotto is despite everything, or how he's fighting out of Philadelphia, but the only way his entrance music could be any more New Jersey was if Springsteen's lyrics were coming out of it.
It was very Bon Jovi-ish. Very much so.
But between that and the Italian presentation, all I could think of is, imagine if Tracy Smothers was still alive and we could do the FBI with Tracy Smothers and Nick Commorotto and anybody else. I don't even know. Get Clayton in there and bring JWoww with him, and just there. Now you've got the FBI.
don't know what to do with this. So I, like most people, will just hate it because it's unfamiliar to me. No, I'm just kidding. I'll give it breathing room. This was very funny. Mekun says that Dax loves Top Flight. We get it, okay? You're so cool. You hang out with Dax Harwood. I love Dax, and I love Matt. I just like busting Matt's balls even more than I like him. We are coming down the home stretch, believe it or not. We've got 3 more matches to go.
We're so close.
So send in your super chat, dickheads. All right? Because we're going to talk about a really fun main event. But I'm so excited. Oh, no, we have 4 matches. But we're getting there. 4 out of 19. And we are an hour and 25 in. We're not doing bad. We're not actually doing bad. But we do move into our Blake Christian and Nick Commorotto match. Blake Christian getting the W here. He's great. He's great. I feel like every time we see him against an opponent of a different style, he's one of the most versatile workers in that regard. Like, he knows how to marry what he does with just about anybody else in that ring. And that when it looks easy, the only reason it looks easy is because that's a lot of hard work. And it is not an easy thing to do. And he makes it effortless. Really good stuff out of Blake Christian tonight. Nick Commorotto, young, growing, fine here. Still adjusting to this weird little persona, but a decent enough match. And Blake Christian is just, he's a star in the making here, Kyle.
Absolutely. He's got a real interesting presence. I love the high flying aspect. I love he's such a great underdog baby face. He can do so many things. He can wrestle. He can fly. He even played a little bit of a smart, almost sneaky style kind of finish.
Yes.
Tonight, which was
clever little finish tonight. Yep.
It was an interesting thought there. I'm not sure that I loved it necessarily, but not least because of it made Nick Commorotto look like the dumbest man alive.
But this is why I think it's okay. So cutting to the finish too, Blake Christian tosses a chair in the ring and manages to roll up Commorotto for the win here. I think Nick Commorotto's kind of supposed to be a little bit of an idiot with his gimmick, right? Like
fair.
I don't want to nobody should ever be expected to be dumb in the ring, but like this wasn't so egregious. It wasn't Three Stooges finish, right? Like it wasn't so bad it made him look super dumb, but he just just more caught off guard, I guess. But I understand what you're saying. Blake Christian can put you away with a million things. Why do we kind of need to go out of our way, right?
Also, I do sometimes struggle with flash pins when the winner is giving up as much size and power as Blake was.
Very fair.
If nothing else, I'd like to see a little bit deeper hook on those legs on the victory roll. Maybe that's just me, but I'm picking nits at this point. But
that's what we're here to do. We pick nits. We're a post show. We're not analyzing things, but
there you go.
You're with the roll-ups, especially. I think because in WWE, not to be tribalistic, but a lot of times we get like, oh my god, the music. Oh my god, a roll-up finishes. There's a really big difference between a great roll-up and a average to bad roll-up, and when you see a great one, you're like, I understand why this move gets used so often. And when you see an average one, you're like, right. So I get it. In a 19 match card where we had match fatigue, an overused move in a not great way can kind of be off-putting.
And this was one that Blake Christian's going to be a star, but this one really didn't advance a whole lot either. This is one that probably could have been trimmed. It was still fun. Good to see Blake Christian get a win. But yeah, it was there.
It was there. But something that I was very happy to see on my screen. Finally, we get Diamante recently signed on a track here, man. I was so glad to see Diamante in the ring a couple weeks in a row after someone's been working dark for literally years under no contract. I'm so excited that it seems like they have a plan for Miss Diamante because she is an ass kicker. I loved this match. She's facing Trish Adora. I thought this was going to go the other way. I thought this was a Trish Adora win. I felt like Trish Adora is being built up to maybe take the title from Athena or at least be a challenger soon. But come to find out, she's actually training with New Japan, which is awesome news. It might, I don't want to say interfere, but it might derail things a little bit creatively because I do feel like she was going to be pushed pretty heavily. But if she's splitting her time, who knows? I love hearing that, though, because Trish Adora is the coolest. Very hard-hitting match. Diamante winning with submission was an even bigger surprise, but I love how dominant she looked in this. And I'm so glad to see it because if there's an ROH women's match that we could throw together tomorrow that I want to see, Diamante and Athena, where they're just going to ruin each other for like 10 minutes. Oh my God. Sign me up for that any day of the week. But what did you think of our match here?
This was really great stuff. I was with you. I agreed. I really thought this was going to be Trish Adora picking up another W en route to eventually challenging Athena. It is entirely possible that her training and with New Japan, the dojo there, might have affected the calculus there a bit. It's hard to say, but either way, like you said, I can't complain about Diamante getting this spot either because her and Athena will have just a fantastic match. Athena and Trish Adora will have a fantastic match winner if that happens.
Sure.
And as long as I'm talking about Trish Adora training in Japan or training with New Japan, what about Trish Adora and Willow for the New Japan Strong title?
Hell yes. Hell yes for all
of these things.
Love seeing Trish get her flowers, man. She's picked up so much momentum in the past year or so, and she's just great. Shay Monster in the chat saying Trish's theme is amazing. Everything that she just from the second that she steps out from that curtain to the second she steps back into it, because it doesn't end at the end of the match. Like she's telling the story all the way up the ramp on the other side. Just awesome. And this was really fun to see because this was a match that didn't have a story that could easily turn into one, right? Like as much as I'm like, great match, no story, like this could be a feud if you wanted to run this back a few times. This is awesome.
You absolutely could. I had also never seen it. Maybe I'm just missing it. I don't recall having seen that particular submission out of Diamante before. I'm trying to recall, and I don't, off the top of my head, I don't remember seeing it. It's sort of the sort of stranglehold, the sort of straitjacket stranglehold with an arm bar. I'm trying to think too. I don't remember seeing it either, but yeah, it's a cool looking one. So I feel like I would remember if she had. It looked great. So I wasn't entirely prepared for the submission to happen because I hadn't seen that before. But it's like, hey, okay, sure.
So she's done it a few times on Dark Squashes. That's the thing. I don't consistently watch Dark as much, or did. Rest in peace, AW Dark. But yeah, it's a good looking one and it's convincing. And Trish Adora made it look really good too. So good stuff here, guys. We're getting there. We got 2 more matches to discuss, but we also get a promo from Alex Coughlin. Very exciting. There's a lot here and I didn't write it down. I'm pretty sure he's challenging for the pure title, right? Yes. Pure title? Yes. Coughlin versus Shibata. Let's go.
Yes. He teamed with Shibata in a tag match a couple of weeks back. Thank you
for hosting. Thanks for doing my job.
I want to say it was against Wheeler and Claudio, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yep.
And afterwards, Coughlin made a point to sort of challenge Shibata for the pure title, just because Shibata had trained him invited him, as he said in the promo, invited him 5 years ago to train in the LA dojo. Now he wants to step out of his trainer's shadow. It's a classic story, and it should be a lot of fun.
See, Louise just snuck that in there on our little match rundown. I didn't have it in my notes, but I remember this now. It's all coming back to me. Bear with me. This was 19 matches. And I got 4 shows to go this weekend, but we've got a little bit more wrestling to talk about here, guys. Super chats and humper chats. Last call. We've got Penta versus Slim J with Arya Daivari and Mark Sterling. And then we have our main event of Samoa Joe and Zack Sabre Jr. versus Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels. So if you want to talk about those matches, get those super chats and humper chats in. Leave a thumbs up on this video as well, if you would be so kind. If you're like, hey, where the heck is the Impact post show? Well, darn it. That's on Fightful overbooked. It's a go home to not Under Siege. Under Siege?
Yeah.
Under Siege. Under Siege?
Yes.
Under Siege. I am up on my Impact, let me tell you. But the card actually looks amazing. They just, look, with Impact, they have their specials, and then they have their pay-per-views, and it's a lot. And I do a lot of other things. But the card looks great. Go hear Joel and the incredible Cresta talk about it. She was also on Fightful Overbooked this morning on the Spotlight. You can catch her interview there, but you can catch get up to date with all of your Impact needs over there. But this show started the same time theirs did because we had an extra hour of wrestling matches, which, as I'm complaining about, it was still a really fun show, to be honest. It was just a dense one. But Penta and Slim J. Penta wins with the fear factor. Where the hell is your brother? I want to know. Why aren't you defending your tag titles? That was my thought on this match. Love seeing Sunny Kiss on my screen, so let's get some Sunny Kiss matches, please. Slim J, underrated. I think people are starting to see how great he is and that he's not just a mid-2000s Eminem gimmick. Like, he's a really, really good wrestler. But this was another one that I was like, we super didn't need this for a plethora of reasons, mostly being that Penta is a tag team champion. Any thoughts for this?
It's funny, and this is clearly the reason why you made the right call picking me tonight. In my notes, specifically, word for word, Slim J is a super underrated performer, even if I'm not a fan of the gimmick / presentation in 2023.
Beautiful.
See, wavelength. It's right there.
We're right there. We're right there, you and me.
But
I knew who I was picking to fill in for.
There you go. That said, I think the Trustbusters could be a lot of fun in the 6-man division. I think that's obvious destination for them. I feel like the cost of the undershirts keeps increasing every week for Ian Riccaboni. Like, by the time we get to the end of the year, those are going to be like $1,000 undershirts or something. It's going to be amazing.
Right. It's true.
The Lucha Brothers. I said all week leading into the Dynamite tag team title defense, why was this not happening on Ring of Honor television? That's why you have Ring of Honor television. But
I'm wondering, I don't remember the timing of it, but I think these tapings might have been done before Rey Fenix was cleared. So I think this might have wrapped up before he was back from injury, but now it's kind of like
possibly because these were May 7th or thereabouts. 7th
oh, okay, so he
7th,
was back
something like
then.
that.
Yeah, that's silly.
So,
Tony
I know I did think it's interesting. Speaking of Phoenix, that it feels like he's getting a little bit more single shine than Penta. Because honestly, I feel like Penta's probably a little bit more of the complete, well-rounded performer than Phoenix is.
But this is why I like them as a tag team, because they're
they can both be
different. Yeah,
I think they can both be single stars, but I feel like if you had to pick, I feel like Penta's the more well-rounded singles guy of the group. But
you know what's crazy though, as we're saying that, like, I feel like there was a while there when Penta was injured, when Phoenix, every match he was in, I was like, it feels like every match this guy does is a match of the year candidate. Like, he's just so incredible. Yeah. But when you talk about, like, as far as from a well-rounded perspective, Penta does bring like quite a different flavor, and like he's a very complete wrestler in that regard.
Yeah, and then that's again that takes nothing away from Phoenix. I mean, obviously his match with Kenny Omega, I mean, of course that's like a cheat code, having a great match with Kenny Omega, but still, it's
but you can't say like that doesn't take anything away from someone. And then if it's not a girl, I can't be like, why don't you support women? So that's less fun for me. But why wasn't this a title match?
Funny guy, Tony Khan. Funny guy.
When Reg isn't here, he's with us. You know what I mean?
I cannot fill his seat. I can only try.
Nobody can. But we don't need you to fill Reg's seat. We just need you to be your own Kyle Sparks, and we appreciate you being here as we come down the home stretch to our main event. of all the things on this show that were like, what is booked for Kate? It's this one. Okay. All the match fatigue I had and the why is this all out the window. Not a single gone, because Zack Sabre Jr. right now and Samoa Joe always, like, just everything I love about wrestling wrapped into one guy. And here's the other thing. This is a match that had a minor story that they told a story of in the ring. And damn it, if that's not great pro wrestling, I don't know what is. But we get them versus Mike Sydal and Christopher Daniels. I got a little bit to say about this because I was so blown away by... This is essentially the old can you coexist trope, but it was so well told without commentary like pandering to you or spoon feeding you or some promo where they were being passive aggressive. We got an earlier one that was just like a little bit of a one-off, mostly Zack Sabre Jr. calling him Samoa and Joseph to pop me. But I love the way that they executed this in the ring. Some things that I loved about this match, and I'll try and keep the list short because there's a lot of things I really liked, both from Joe and Zack Sabre Jr. The pairing of them in general, I thought was incredible because I feel like the thing Samoa Joe does best at as a solo competitor is like he can beat the hell out of you with his size, but he'll also just like slow you down and do some of the stuff, not in the same way, but that Zack Sabre Jr. does to you. And like, let me slow you down and put you in a hold and just inflict pain on you for a while. And then I'll power slam you whenever the hell I feel like, because I'm Samoa Joe. So it was kind of fun because Zack Sabre Jr. almost just slid into half the role that Samoa Joe always plays at his singles matches, I thought, which is just a ton of fun. I loved commentary here talking about Zack Sabre Jr.'s style and the 6-second hold thing of, with technical wrestlers like this, if you hold something for 6 seconds and the person doesn't tap out, they'll switch positions because that means it's not going to be effective enough to put them away. Great job there, because sometimes it can feel a little chaotic if that context isn't with you. The story that unfolded in this match was so good. You got can you coexist stuff because Zack Sabre Jr. accidentally headbutts Samoa Joe. As the match is going on, Zack Sabre Jr. is just making Samoa Joe do more and more work, which I thought was such a blast here. And then I loved like the spots where Zack Sabre Jr. is also trying to impress Samoa Joe. Like, I want to impress my new friend. Absolutely, absolutely killed me. So much fun here. What I love about Zack Sabre Jr., other than him running around calling everyone dickheads and darling all the time, when he puts on a hold, if you watch the way he puts on an ankle lock, it's almost like a magician or an illusionist in the way that he makes it look like he's breaking someone's ankle right off their bone. Like, it's a special way to lock in the moves that he does, but man, it's some of the best execution that you could ever see. Loved in the beginning of the match too. I forgot about this. People were yelling, Joe was going to kill you. And he was like, don't murder. Killed me off the bat. But some really, really good stuff in here. That half hatch in the middle of this, like, Jesus Christ. The way Zack Sabre Jr. will kind of play possum if someone's going to the top rope until he feels like getting up and putting them in a Cobra twist or whatever is incredible. And then Joe in this, he like countered the Angles wings basically by dumping Christopher Daniels on himself. He wins with the coquina clutch in this, but I loved the double submission spot, which is kind of where the match really comes to a head a little bit. Joe's about to pass out and Zack Sabre Jr. gets the break, but he's also the one left in the ring to deal with the cleanup after making Samoa Joe do all the damn work here, which I thought was a blast. But we get at the end here, Daniel's needing a tag. Instead, he gets a snap power slam from Joe. This was a whole bunch of fun. And I just love when wrestlers are able to tell a story that isn't necessarily there, but tell it in the match, because I think what we're going to lead to is Samoa Joe versus Zack Sabre Jr. So we get some dissension, even though it wasn't paramount to the story. So much fun to go on this ride with them. This was built for Kate. I loved everything about it. Code of honor at the end. An absolute blast. What were your thoughts here?
So much fun. Little things like Joe blind tagging himself into the match.
Yes.
And then Sabre coming back afterwards and actually tagging hand to hand and lecturing Joe. That's how you make a tag.
It was like an Odd Couple thing. Like, it was so much fun.
Just being such a self-righteous jerk about it was just
dickhead
fantastic.
is what he was being.
Yes. I feel like you've got that term on lockdown for this. So I'm trying to find synonyms here.
It's CM Punk has his Bret Hart tribute spots in the ring, right? Like, me just saying dickhead at people. It's just my Zack Sabre Jr. tribute right now because I've been on a kick this week. But it's that was a super fun spot of the, like, that's not how we do things around here.
Yeah.
Killed me. So
like,
good.
Just so many fun things. Like you mentioned, Sabre waiting for guys to come off the top rope. Like, Sydal went for his middle rope springboard into the arm drag, like, is that lucha style arm drag he does, and Sabre just catches him in a cravat and hits him. Like, just such great stuff. And Sabre and Joe is going to be a blast when it happens. It's going to be so much fun. But along the way, Zack Sabre Jr., as far as I can find, I try to research this stuff, and sometimes there might be stuff that I miss or some incomplete information. As far as I know, Zack has never gone one-on-one with either Daniels or Sydal. Those would be fresh matches that would be a lot of fun. Joe has never faced Sydal one-on-one that I've been able to find.
Hell out of me. That's really interesting.
I did find that they teamed at one point when Sydal was, in 2006, when he was cycling through all the different tag partners to go up against against Generation Next. When Aries and Strong held the tag titles, they teamed once for one of those matches. But so there's outside of Joe and Daniels, there's not a lot of crossover between these guys in singles matches. So there could be a lot of fun matches to have there before we even get to Joe and ZSJ if you wanted to go that route. The only thing that gives me pause is you've got Bryan Danielson healthy. You've got Zack Sabre Jr. healthy. Don't you have to pull the trigger on that while you've got the chance?
I think you absolutely have to. I think that's also something you can snap together for Forbidden Door and let the rest of this play out in ROH. Like, I don't think that is... Because it's a dream match, I wouldn't normally like layering up stories like that, but because it's a dream match, it was probably supposed to happen last year. I think you absolutely have to. But we'll see what happens too. Zack Sabre Jr. has to get through Dominion.
Yes.
And we'll see what unfolds there. But I agree with you. It's we got Danielson and Omega, right? So now it's like the next, I think, dream match in Danielson world has to be ZSJ versus Danielson, which will be, I truly believe, a sight to see. Like, an absolute sight.
God, it's going to be amazing.
And
it's going to be absolutely amazing.
I don't want to undersell because the one side of this match is the most 4K wrestlers ever, but Sydal looked really good in this. We kind of saw shades of the former Sydal, I feel like, a little bit. He hasn't been doing as much high-flying stuff, but we got a lot of that, which just makes logical sense with who his opponents are here. Christopher Daniels also doing some really fun work. The Angel's Wings always look so good. Really fun stuff. So that is what we finally, after 19 matches, went home on. Kyle, thank you so much for coming on here. I appreciate it. I know this was a bit bigger of an undertaking than we realized when you initially agreed to come on here. So I appreciate you sitting in for Reg, who was too smart to commit to a 19-match post-show while he's in Vegas, enjoying his weekend. Just to recap, we will have your SmackDown review tomorrow. I believe Rampage is on Saturday, so I don't think we'll be there for that. But tomorrow you will have your SmackDown review here. On Saturday, you will have your Night of Champions review on the main and select. And then Sunday, you will have your NXT review and your Double or Nothing on the main channel and also on select. So lots of wrestling coming your way, as well as your usual Grapsity show. We got a lot happening this weekend, and you can read more about the news coming from it on Fightful Select. But Kyle, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter at Kyle K. Sparks. I would have had just Kyle Sparks, but there's some guy in Chicago that has that, so that doesn't work.
Those Chicago troublemakers, man.
Unacceptable. Find me on Twitter at Kyle K. Sparks. I'm generally live tweeting shows. If anywhere that I do show up, I'll be promoting it there. I'm working on a couple of different guest spots with a few different shows in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully some of those will come to fruition and I can announce those soon. I'm going to try to not be the make an announcement about announcements guy.
Oh, you
Won't
know
do
my
that.
pet peeves. I hate when people are like, got an announcement soon. I'm like, well, then just announce it. Don't announce your announcement. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. Nothing's official yet. So, we'll hopefully some of that will be coming down soon. And
waiting for the contract signing because you're smart. I get it.
I try. got to get it in writing first. That's key. But follow me on Twitter at Kyle K Sparks. Anything that I'm doing will be there. And we'll
guys,
see from there.
Even in the almost 2 hours that we did today, we barely even scratched the surface of how much Kyle knows about ROH and about pro wrestling. Please go follow him because he is such a smarty pants and an encyclopedia about this stuff. We appreciate it. We even appreciate Matt Kuhn, who we busted balls with all day, but said really great job. Well, thank you, Matt. Please check out my interview with Matt. We talk a lot about a lot of things in wrestling, and it was a nice hold back conversation about why I fell in love with this crazy art form in the first place. A lot to talk about with Matt Kuhn, but you're not getting rid of me that soon. You got me on the AEW Rampage post show tomorrow, or the SmackDown post show, I guess, only tomorrow. You got me on Saturday doing the Sands of Blind, where I'm going to be lying to Alex Plasky about 3 things that happened in the Saudi Arabia pay-per-view at Night of Champions. I'm sure one of them will have to do with Cody's arm. You've got NXT post show, which will be a beat the clock, watch along one, where we will review NXT as quickly as we possibly can, while also probably watching Anarchy in the Arena at the same time. And then we will do our pay-per-view post show behind the paywall at Fightful Select. And then Monday, the wheel starts all over again. So we got a lot happening, but please stay tuned to Fightful. Please go subscribe to Fightful Select for all of the great information. Kyle, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. It was a really, really a pleasure. I've been looking forward to working with you for a while, so I'm glad to have the opportunity.
Glad to have you out here. Follow me at Miss Kate Fabe on Twitter for everything I just said in graphic form if you want to follow me. But most importantly, have a safe and wonderful wrestling-filled weekend, especially if you're in Vegas. Be safe out there. We appreciate you guys tuning in for the support. We're out of here.